Welcome to Oslo and the Nobel Peace Prize ceremony, which always takes place on December 10th. This is the date on which Alfred Nobel died and also the International Human Rights Day. Even though the Peace Prize winner of 2010, Chinese Liu Xiaobo, is not allowed by Chinese authorities to be present here today, this will be a worthy ceremony in the Oslo City Hall. This hall has been the venue for the Peace Prize ceremony for 20 years. The hall is filled with guests, as is usual for this ceremony. About 1,000 guests are gathered here today. Many Chinese have come far off to be here. Many of them are well-known dissidents. Many of them were present at the rebellion in Beijing in 1989. One of the leaders of the rebellion at that time, Chai Ling, who was very active then, is also here in the hall today. The Peace Prize winner's chair is empty today, but his portrait is placed by the rostrum. The director of the Nobel Institute, Mr. Lundestad, has called this year's awarding of the prize one of the most important decisions in the 109 years of Peace Prize history. Liu Xiaobo is one of the principals behind the Democracy Appeal Charter 08. He has dedicated the prize to those who were killed during the students' rebellion in Beijing in '89. The band of the Oslo Police Force are greeting the arriving guests at the City Hall entrance, as they do every year. And from the bell tower we can hear Carillon by Handel, played in honor of the prize winner. While Lin Xiaobo, in his prison in China, must follow this ceremony only in his thoughts, he will be honored here in the hall for his long and non-violent struggle for human rights in China. For many years, the Nobel Committee has recognized a connection between human rights and peace. There are many champions of human rights among Peace Prize winners. The President of the Norwegian Parliament, Norway's Prime Minister and the Foreign Secretary are all present here today, as are the High Court Chief Justice, several other cabinet ministers and about 80 members of Parliament. Present are also the President of the Sami Parliament and heads of many official institutions. 46 embassies of Oslo are represented here, even though Chinese authorities have called on them to boycott the ceremony. 19 embassies have chosen not to attend, among them Russia, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Cuba, Iraq, Iran, Nepal, and Egypt, and of course China. Chinese authorities look upon the choice of Liu Xiaobo as a provocation and as showing contempt for the Chinese justice system. They call him a criminal, and the country of Norway is held responsible for the decision of the Nobel Committee, even though the committee acts independently of Norwegian authorities. China has tightened the reins around the dissidents of the country after the decision to award the Peace Prize to Liu Xiaobo was made public. But the Nobel Committee's decision has been met with enthusiasm in many countries, and the Peace Prize to Liu Xiaobo has been described as very important for the development of freedom of speech and human rights in China. That is the reaction of many other Peace Prize winners like Lech Walesa, Bishop Desmond Tutu, and former Czech President Václav Havel. Havel and Tutu both suggested that Liu Xiaobo be nominated to the prize, and Lech Walesa declared himself willing to come to Norway to accept the prize on behalf of him. Many others, like last year's winner, US President Barack Obama, have requested that China release Liu Xiaobo, as have prize winners like Dalai Lama, Frederick Willem de Klerk, and Mohammed El-Baradei. Havel, who has been suggested as a prize winner several times, and Bishop Tutu, has declared that China now has a unique chance to choose a new direction and thereby show that they are becoming an important world power. The City Hall is beautifully decorated with 10,000 flowers, many of them flown in from the Netherlands and Colombia. The flowers this year are chrysanthemum, orchids, carnations, anthurium, bamboo, and reindeer moss. China has four flowers, which are called the four gentlemen, and those are chrysanthemums, and orchids, and bamboo, many of which are represented today. The artist Gry Fras has designed this year's Peace Prize diploma, which hopefully will be given to Liu Xiaobo, together with the Nobel Godel, before too long. This is not the first time a Nobel Peace Prize winner has been unable to come to Norway to receive the prize for political reasons. And here is Denzel Washington, the actor, who will be one of the hosts for the Nobel concert tomorrow night. Nancy Pelosi is also present in the hall today. She's the Democrat leader in the House of Representatives in Washington, in the United States. So it isn't the first time a Nobel Peace Prize winner has been unable to come to Norway to receive the prize for political reasons. In 1991, Aung San Suu Kyi's two sons, Alexander and Kim, received the prize on behalf of their mother. The Burma junta stopped the prize winner from going to Oslo. In 1983, Lech Wałęsa's wife Danuta and son Bogdan came to the prize ceremony. The Solidarity leader did not go to Oslo because he feared he would not be allowed back into Poland. In 1978, Israeli Prime Minister Menachem Begin and Egypt's President Anwar al-Sadat shared the prize. Only Begin came to the ceremony. Sadat gave as his reason for not coming that he had other engagements. Some people believed that he did not want to stand on the rostrum with Begin. In 1975, the Russian Peace Prize winner Andrei Sakharov was not allowed to go to Oslo, and his wife Yelena Bonner came here on his behalf. The German pacifist Karl von Ossietzky was not allowed to go to Oslo for the 1935 Peace Prize. Hitler denied any German to receive a Nobel Prize during his years in power. The main room of the City Hall is beautifully decorated by Norwegian artists. On the walls we can see Fridtjof Nansen here, pole explorer, humanist, and himself a Peace Prize recipient in 1922. The author Bjørnstjerne Bjørnson is another well-known Norwegian depicted on the walls here. He sat on the first Nobel Committee and received the Nobel Prize himself in literature in 1903. Outside the City Hall, everybody is waiting for the King and Queen to arrive down from the palace. The King and Queen are always present at this Peace Prize ceremony. Usually also the Crown Prince and the Crown Princess, but they are abroad right now. So this year, the King and Queen are here. They are welcomed by the chair of the Nobel Committee, Mr. Torbjørn Jagland, and the head of the Nobel Institute, Geir Lundestad. King Harald V and Queen Sonja. So inside the hall, about 1,000 people are waiting for what is going to happen during this ceremony, an historic ceremony as far as these Peace Prize ceremonies are concerned. Many of the Chinese dissidents that are here as guests today have come from far off to be here this morning. The King and Queen's entrance is heralded by trumpeters from the King's Guard. This special and important Peace Prize ceremony will be opened by Norwegian soprano Marita Kvarving Sølberg and pianist Håvard Gimse. They will perform Solveig's song from Ibsen's Peer Gynt with music by Norwegian composer Edvard Grieg. Sølberg has appeared in operas and sung with great orchestras in Germany, Denmark, Russia, United States, Israel, as well as in Norway. The well-known Norwegian pianist Håvard Gimse has played at several Peace Prize ceremonies here in the hall before. Last year, the leader of the Nobel Committee, Torbjørn Jagland, made his Peace Prize speech to President Obama. Today, the prize winner's chair is empty, but Jagland's speech is even more important today.
Your Majesties, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the Norwegian Nobel Committee has decided to award the Nobel Peace Prize for 2010 to Liu Xiaobo for his long and non-violent struggle for fundamental rights in China. The Norwegian Nobel Committee has long believed that there is a close connection between human rights and peace. Such rights are a prerequisite for the fraternity between nations, of which Alfred Nobel wrote in his will. This was the first paragraph of the committee's announcement on the 8th of October this year. We regret that the laureate is not present. He is in isolation in a prison in northeast China. Nor can the laureate's wife, Liu Xia, or his closest relatives be with us. No medal or diploma will therefore be presented here today. This fact alone shows that the award was necessary and appropriate. We congratulate Liu Xiaobo with this year's Peace Prize. There have been a number of previous occasions when the laureate has been prevented from attending. This has in fact been the case with several awards which, in the light of history, have proven to be most significant and honorable. Even when the laureate has come, he or she has been severely condemned by the authorities of his or her own country. There was a great deal of trouble in 1935 when the committee gave the award to Karl von Ossietzky. Hitler was furious and prohibited all Germans from accepting any Nobel Prize. King Haakon did not attend and the ceremony and the committee was split. Ossietzky did not come to Oslo and died a year later. There was considerable outrage in Moscow when Andrei Sakharov received his prize in 1975. He too was prevented from receiving the award in person. He sent his wife. The same thing happened when Lech Walesa in 1983. The Burmese authorities were furious when Aung San Suu Kyi received the Peace Prize in 1991. Once again, the laureate could not come to Oslo. In 2003, Shirin Ebadi received the Nobel Peace Prize. She came. Much could be said of the reaction of the Iranian authorities, but the Iranian ambassador did in fact attend the ceremony. The Norwegian Nobel Committee has given 4 prizes to South Africa. All the laureates came to Oslo, but the awards to Albert Luthuli in 1960 and to Desmond Tutu in 1984 provoked great outrage in the apartheid regime in South Africa before the applause broke out thanks to the awards to Nelson Mandela and Frederick de Klerk in 1993. The point of these awards has, of course, never been to offend anyone. The Nobel Committee's intention has been to say something about the relationship between human rights, democracy, and peace. And it has been important to remind the world that the rights so widely enjoyed today were fought and won by persons who took great risks. They did so for others, for all of us. This is why Liu Xiaobo deserves our support today. Although none of the committee's members have ever met Liu, we feel that we know him. We have studied him closely over a long period of time. Liu was born on the 28th of December 1955 in Changchun in China's Jilin province. He took a bachelor's degree in literature at Jilin University and a master's degree and PhD at Beijing Normal University, where he also taught. Stays abroad included visits to Oslo, Hawaii, and Columbia University in New York. In 1989, he returned home to take part in the dawning democracy movement. On the 2nd of June, he and some friends started a hunger strike on Tiananmen Square to protest against the state of emergency that had been declared. They issued a 6-point democratic manifesto written by Liu, opposing dictatorship and in favor of democracy. Liu was opposed to any physical struggle against the authorities on the part of the students. He tried to find a peaceful solution to the tension between the students and the government. Non-violence was already figuring prominently in his message. On the 4th of June, he and his friends tried to prevent a clash between the army and the students. He was only partially successful. Many lives were lost, most of them outside Tiananmen Square. Liu has told his wife that he would like this year's Peace Prize to be dedicated to the lost souls from the 4th of June. As he put it, it is indeed a pleasure for us to fulfill his wish. Liu has said that the greatness of non-violent resistance is that even as man is faced with forceful tyranny and the resulting suffering, the victim responds to hate with love, to prejudice with tolerance, to arrogance with humility, to humiliation with dignity, and to violence with reason. Tiananmen became a turning point in Liu's life. In 1996, Liu was sentenced to 3 years in labor camp for so-called rumor mongering and slander. He was president of the independent Chinese Pen Center from 2003 to 2007. Liu has written nearly 800 essays, 499 of them since 2005. He was one of the chief architects behind Charter 08, which was made known on the 10th of December 2008, which was, in the words of the preamble of the document, on the occasion of the 100th anniversary of China's first constitution, the 60th anniversary of the promulgation of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the 30th anniversary of the birth of the democracy wall, and the 10th anniversary of the Chinese government's signature of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. Charter of 8 defends fundamental human rights and has in due course been signed by several thousand persons, both in China itself and abroad. On the 25th of December 2009, Liu was sentenced to 11 years in prison and 2 years loss of political rights for, in the words of the sentence, incitement to the overthrow of the state power and socialist system and the people's democratic dictatorship. Liu has constantly claimed that the sentence violates both China's own constitution and fundamental rights. There are many dissidents in China, and their opinions differ on many points. The severe punishment imposed on Liu made him more than a central spokesman for human rights. Practically overnight, he became the very symbol, both in China and internationally, of the non-violent struggle for such rights in China. We can say that Liu reminds us of Nelson Mandela. Your Majesties, ladies and gentlemen, during the Cold War, the connection between peace and human rights were disputed. Since the end of the Cold War, however, peace researchers and political scientists have almost without exception underlined how close those connections are. This is allegedly one of the most robust findings they have arrived at. Democracies may go to war against dictatorship and have certainly waged colonial wars, but there is apparently not a single example of a democracy having gone to war against another democracy. So the deeper fraternity between nations, which Alfred Nobel mentions in his will, and which is a prerequisite for real peace, can hardly be created without human rights and democracy. Your Majesties, there are scarcely any examples in world history of a great power achieving such rapid growth of such a long period of time as China. Since 1978, year by year, decade after decade, the country's growth rate has stood at 10% or more. A few years ago, the country's output was greater than Germany's. This year, it exceeded Japan's. China has thus achieved the world's second largest gross national product. The United States' national product is still 3 times greater than China's. But while China is continuing its advance, the United States is in serious difficulties. So economic success has lifted several 100 million Chinese out of poverty. For the reduction in the number of poor people in the world, China must be given the main credit. We all appreciate this, and we commend and congratulate China for these extraordinary achievements. And therefore, we can to a certain degree say that China, with its 1.3 billion people, is carrying mankind's fate on its shoulders. If the country proves capable of developing a social market economy with full civil rights, this will have a huge favorable impact on the world. If not, there is a danger of social and economic crisis arising in the country with negative consequences for us all. And here we have arrived at the very logic of this year's prize. Historical experience gives us reason to believe that continuing rapid economic growth presupposes opportunities for free speech, free research, free thinking, and free debate. And moreover, without freedom of expression, corruption, the abuse of power, and misrule will develop. Every power system must be counterbalanced by popularly elected control, free media, and the right of individual citizens to criticize. More or less authoritarian states may have long periods of rapid economic growth, but it is no coincidence that nearly all the richest countries in the world are democratic, because democracy mobilizes new human and technological resources. China's new status entails increased responsibility. China must be prepared for criticism and regard it as positive, as an opportunity for improvement. This must be the case wherever there is great power. We have all formed opinions on the role of the United States through the years. Friends and allies criticized the country both for the Vietnam War and the lack of civil rights for the colored people. Many Americans were opposed to the award of the Nobel Peace Prize to Dr. Martin Luther King in 1964. Looking back, we can see that the United States grew stronger when the Afro-American people obtained their rights. China too will grow stronger if its people is being granted civil rights. Many will ask whether China's weakness, for all the strengths the country is currently showing, is not manifested in the need to imprison a man for 11 years merely for expressing his opinions on how his country should be governed. This weakness finds clear expression in the sentence on Liu, where it is underlined as especially serious that he spread his opinions on the internet. But those who fear technological advances have every reason to fear the future. Information technology cannot be abolished. It will continue to open societies. As the president of the Russian Federation, Dmitry Medvedev, put it in an address to the State Duma, and I quote, "The new information technology gives us an opportunity to be connected with the world. The world and society are growing more open, even if the ruling class does not like it." No doubt, Medvedev had the fate of the Soviet Union in mind. Compulsory uniformity and control of thought prevented the country from participating in the technological revolution which took place in the 1970s and 1980s. The system broke down. The country could have stood to gain a great deal more from entering into a dialogue at an early stage with people like Andrei Sakharov. Your Majesties, ladies and gentlemen, today's world order is a consequence of the two horrible wars in the 20th century. The world had to move from nationalism towards internationalism by establishing the United Nations and adopting the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Today, therefore, neither the nation-state nor a majority within a nation-state has unlimited power. Human rights limit what the nation-state and the majority in a nation-state can do. This must apply to all states that are members of the United Nations and who have acceded to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. China has signed and even ratified several of the UN's and ILO's major international conventions and on human rights. It is interesting that China has accepted the supranational conflict resolving mechanism of the World Trade Organization. China's own constitution upholds fundamental human rights. Article 35 of the country's constitution thus lays down that citizens of the People's Republic of China enjoy freedom of speech, of the press, of assembly, of association, of procession, and of demonstration. Article 41 begins by stating that citizens have the right to criticize and make suggestions regarding any state organ or functionary. Liu has only exercised his civil rights. He has not done anything wrong. He must be released. Ladies and gentlemen, in the past 100 to 150 years, human rights and democracy have gained an ever stronger position in the world, and with them peace. This can be clearly seen in Europe, where so many wars were fought, and whose colonial powers started so many wars around the world. Europe is today, on the whole, a continent of peace. Decolonization after the Second World War gave a number of countries, first in Asia and then in Africa, the chance to govern themselves with respect for basic human rights. With India in the lead, many of them seized the opportunity. Over the latest decades, we have seen how democracy has consolidated its position in Latin America and in Central and Eastern Europe. Many countries in the Muslim part of the world are treading the same path: Turkey, Indonesia, Malaysia. Several other countries are in the process of opening up their political systems. The human rights activists in China are defenders of the international order and the main trends in the global community. Viewed in that light, they are not dissidents. They represent the world's common values and standards. Liu denies that criticism of the Communist Party is the same as offending China and the Chinese people. He argues that even if the Communist Party is the ruling party, it cannot be equated with the country, let alone with the nation and its culture. Changes in China can take time, a very long time. Political reforms should, as Liu says, be gradual, peaceful, orderly, and controlled. China has, in his words, had enough of attempts at revolutionary change that can only lead to chaos. But as Liu also writes, an enormous transformation towards pluralism in society has already taken place. An official authority is no longer able to fully control the whole society. However strong the power of the regime may appear to be, every single individual must do his best to live in his words, an honest life with dignity. The answer from the Chinese authorities is to claim that this year's Peace Prize humiliates China and to give very derogatory descriptions of Liu. History shows many similar examples of political leaders playing on nationalist feelings and attempting to demonize holders of contrary opinions. They soon become foreign agents. This has sometimes happened in the name of democracy and freedom, but almost always with a tragic outcome. We recognize, for instance, this in the rhetoric of the struggle against terrorism. You are either for me or against me. Such undemocratic methods as torture and imprisonment without sentence have been used in the name of freedom. This has led to more polarization of the world and harmed the fight against terrorism. Liu Xiaobo is an optimist, despite his many years in prison. In his closing appeal to the court on the 23rd of December 2009, he said, "I, filled with optimism, look forward to the advent of a future free China. For there is no force that can put an end to the human quest for freedom, and China will in the end become a nation ruled by law where human rights reign supreme." Your Majesties, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Isaac Newton once said, "If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants." When we are able to look ahead today, it is because we are standing on the shoulders of the many men and women who over the years, often at great risk, have stood up for what they believed in and thus made our freedom possible. And therefore, while some are only looking to the commercial interests, some political leaders only focusing exclusively on their short-term national interest, and others remaining totally indifferent, the Norwegian Nobel Committee has once again chosen to support those who fight for us all. We congratulate Liu Xiaobo on the Nobel Peace Prize for 2010. His views will, in the long run, strengthen China. We extend to him and to China our very best wishes for the years ahead. Thank you very much. Your Majesties, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it has not been possible, as you know, for Liu Xiaobo or any of his close relatives to come to Oslo to receive the Nobel Medal and Diploma. At this stage in the ceremony, when we normally hand over the medal and the diploma, I place them in the empty chair held by Liu Xiaobo.
This symbolic delivery of the prize is rare in Peace Prize history. We shall have more music. First, Chinese music. The violin player Lin Chang has lived in Boston, USA for many years. He has played with some of the world's most famous orchestras and performed alone and has won several important music prizes. He will first play Chinese traditional jasmine flowers. Accompanied by Håvard Kimse, he will now play Salut d'amour by Sir Edward Elgar. Norway's famous and international actor and film producer Liv Ullmann will now read the final appeal that Liu Xiaobo held in court on the 23rd of December 2009, when he was sentenced to 11 years in jail.
Ladies, Your Majesties, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the text I am going to read, I have no enemies, my final statement, was Liu Xiaobo's final declaration on December 23rd, 2009, at the trial against him. 2 days later, he was sentenced to 11 years of prison. I have no enemies. My final statement, Liu Xiaobo, December 23rd, 2009. In the course of my life, for more than half a century, the 4th of June, 1989 was the major turning point. Up to that point, I was a member of the first class to enter university, class of 77, when college entrance examinations were reinstated following the Cultural Revolution. From BA to MA and on to PhD, my academic career was all smooth sailing. Upon receiving my degrees, I stayed on to teach at the Beijing Normal University. As a teacher, I was well received by the students. At the same time, I was a public intellectual, writing articles and books that created quite a stir during the 1980s, frequently receiving invitations to give talks around the country, and going abroad as a visiting scholar upon invitation from England and Europe and from America. What I demanded of myself was this: whether as a person or as a writer, I would lead a life of honesty, responsibility, and dignity. When I returned from the US to take part in the 1989 movement, I was thrown into prison for the crime of counter-revolutionary propaganda and incitement. I also lost my beloved lectern and could no longer publish essays or give talks in China, merely for publishing different political views and taking part in a peaceful democracy movement. A teacher lost his lectern, a writer lost his right to publish, and a public intellectual lost the opportunity to give talks publicly. This is a tragedy for me personally, and for a China that has already seen 30 years of reform and opening up. When I think about it, after June the 4th, 1989, my two opportunities to address the public have been associated with courts. They have both been provided by trial sessions at the Beijing Municipal Intermediate People's Court, once in January 1991, and again today. Although the crimes I have been charged with on the two occasions are different in name, their real substance is basically the same. Both are speech crimes. 20 years have passed, but the ghosts of June the 4th, 1989 have not yet been laid to rest. Upon release from the Qinshan prison in 1991, I, who had been led onto the path of political dissent by the psychological change of June the 4th, lost the right to speak publicly in my own country and could only speak through the foreign media. And because of this, I was subjected to year-round monitoring, kept under residential surveillance, May 1995 to January 1996, and sent to re-education through labor, October 1996 to October 1999. And now, again, I have been shoved into the dock by the enemy mentality of the regime. But I still want to say to this regime, which is depriving me of my freedom, that I stand by the convictions I expressed in my June 2nd hunger strike declaration 20 years ago. I have no enemies and no hatred. None of the police who monitored, arrested, and interrogated me, none of the prosecutors who indicted me, and none of the judges who judged me are my enemies. Although there is no way I can accept your monitoring, arrests, indictments, and verdicts, I respect your professions and your integrity, including those of the two prosecutors, Zhang Ronggo and Pen Xueqing, who are now taking charges against me on behalf of the prosecution. During interrogation on December 3rd, I could sense your respect and your good faith. Hatred can rot away a person's intelligence and conscience. Enemy mentality will poison the spirit of a nation, incite cruel mortal struggles, destroy a society's tolerance and humanity, and hinder a nation's progress toward freedom and democracy. That is why I hope to be able to transcend my personal experiences as I look upon our nation's development and social change to counter the regime's hostility with utmost goodwill and to dispel hatred with love. Everyone knows that it was reform and opening up that brought about our country's development and social change. In my view, reform and opening up began with the abandonment of the using class struggle as guiding principle, the government policy of the Mao era. And in its place, a commitment to economic development and social harmony. The process of abandoning the philosophy of struggle was also a process of gradual weakening of the enemy mentality and the elimination of the psychology of hatred and the process of squeezing out the wolf's milk that has seeped into human nature. It was this process that provided a relaxed climate at home and abroad for reform and opening up gentle and humane grounds for restoring mutual affection among people and peaceful coexistence among those with different interests and values, thereby providing encouragement in keeping with humanity for the bursting forth of creativity and restoration of compassion among our countrymen. One could say that abandoning the anti-imperialist and anti-revisionist stance in foreign relations and class struggle at home has been the basic premise that has enabled reform and opening up to continue to this very day. The market trend in the economy, the variation of culture, and the gradual shift in social order towards the rule of law have all benefited from the weakening of the enemy mentality. Even in the political arena where progress is slowest, the weakening of the enemy mentality has led to an ever-growing tolerance for social pluralism on the part of the regime and substantial decrease in the force of persecution and political dissidents, and the official term of the 1989 movement has also been changed from turmoil and riot to political disturbance. The weakening of the enemy mentality has paved the way for the regime to gradually accept the universality of human rights. In 1997 and 1998, the Chinese government made a commitment to sign 2 major United Nations international human rights covenants, signaling China's acceptance of universal human rights standards. In 2004, the National People's Congress improved the Constitution, writing into the Constitution for the first time that the state respects and guarantees human rights, signaling that human rights have already become one of the fundamental principles of China's rule of law. At the same time, the current regime puts forth the ideas of putting people first and creating a harmonious society, signaling progress. This is the regime's concept of rule. I have also been able to feel this progress on the macro level through my own personal experience since my arrest. Although I continue to maintain that I am innocent and that the charges against me are unconstitutional, during the 1+ years since I have lost my freedom, I have been locked up at 2 different locations and gone through 4 pre-trial police interrogations, 3 prosecutors and 2 judges. But in handling my case, they have not been disrespectful, overstepped time limitations, or tried to force a confession. Their manner has been moderate and reasonable. Moreover, they have often shown goodwill. On June the 23rd, I was moved from a location where I was kept under residential surveillance to the Beijing Municipal Public Security Bureau No. 1 Detention Center, known as Bacon. And during my 6 months now at Bacon, I see improvements in prison management. In 1996, I spent time at the old Bacon, and compared to the old Bacon, the present Bacon is a huge improvement, both in terms of the hardware, the facilities, and the software, the management. In particular, the humane management pioneered by the new Bacon, based on respect for the rights and integrity of detainees, has brought flexible management on every aspect of the behavior of the correctional staff, and has found expression in the comforting broadcasts, Repentance magazine, and music before meals, and music on awakening and going to bed. This style of management allows detainees to experience a sense of dignity and of warmth, and stirs their conscience in maintaining prison order and opposing the bullies among inmates. Not only has it provided humane living environment for detainees, it has also greatly improved the environment for their litigation to take place and their state of mind. I've had close contact with Correctional Officer Liu Cheng, who has been in charge of me in my cell, and his respect and care could be seen in every detail of his work, penetrating his every word and deed, and giving one a warm feeling. It was perhaps my good fortune to have gotten to know this sincere, honest, conscientious, and kind correctional officer during my time at Bacon. It is precisely because of such convictions and personal experience that I firmly believe that China's political progress will not stop, and I, filled with optimism, look forward to the advent of a future free China. For there is no force that can put an end to the human quest for freedom. And China will in the end become a nation ruled by law, where human rights reign supreme. I also hope that this sort of progress can be reflected in the trial, as I await the impartial ruling of the collegial bench, a ruling that will withstand the test of history. If I may be permitted to say so, the most fortunate experience of these past 20 years has been the selfless love I have received from my wife, Liu Xiaobo. She could not be present as an observer in court today, but I still want to say to you, my dear, that I firmly believe your love for me will remain the same as it always has been. Throughout all these years that I have lived without freedom, our love was full of bitterness imposed by outside circumstances, but I savor its aftertaste. It remains boundless. I am serving my sentence in a tangible prison while you wait in the intangible prison of the heart. Your love is the sunlight that leaps over high walls and penetrates the iron bars at my prison window, stroking every inch of my skin, warming every cell of my body, allowing me to always keep peace, openness, and brightness in my heart, and filling every minute of my time in prison with meaning. My love for you, on the other hand, is so full of remorse and regret that it at times makes me stagger under its weight. I am an insensible stone in the wilderness, whipped by fierce wind and torrential rain, so cold that no one dares touch me. But my love is solid and sharp, capable of piercing through any obstacle, even if I were crushed into powder. I would still use my ashes to embrace you. My dear, with your love, I can calmly face my impending trial, having no regrets about the choices I've made and optimistically awaiting tomorrow. I look forward to the day when my country is a land with freedom of expression, where the speech of every citizen will be treated equally well, where different values, ideas, beliefs, and political views can compete with each other and peacefully coexist, where both majority and minority views will be equally guaranteed, and where the political views that differ from those currently in power will be fully respected and protected, where all political views will spread out under the sun for people to choose from, where every citizen can state political views without fear, and where no one can, under any circumstances, suffer political persecution for voicing divergent political views. I hope that I will be the last victim of China's endless literary inquisitions, and that from now on, no one will be incriminated because of speech. Freedom of expression is the foundation of human rights, the source of humanity, and the mother of truth. To strangle freedom of speech is to trample on human rights, stifle humanity, and suppress truth. In order to exercise the right to freedom of speech conferred by the Constitution, one should fulfill the social responsibility of a Chinese citizen. There is nothing criminal in anything I have done, but if charges are brought against me because of this, I have no complaints. Thank you, everyone.
Det var Liv Ullmann som leste Leo Xiaobos egne ord. Vi har hørt at han It was Leo Xiaobo's own words that were read by Liv Ullmann. We know that the prize winner has especially wanted the children's choir to sing here today. He is very fond of children's choir music and says that children symbolize hope, peace and the future. Now this is the children's choir from the Norwegian National Opera, conducted by Edle Stray Pedersen. Ragnhild Hemsing plays the violin, Tore Dyrstad the piano. That was Bridal March from Valsøyfjord, and we were followed by the melody Luck and then Norwegian Mountains.
Tala till sina döda, hvor stod med og vet mer om en
And with a song from the children of the Norwegian National Opera, we've come to the end of this Peace Prize ceremony in the City Hall of Oslo. The Peace Prize ceremony usually ends with the King and Queen congratulating the winner. This year there is no winner here in the hall to congratulate. But even without the winner here in Oslo this time, there are things happening both today and tomorrow. This evening there will be a torch parade through Oslo's main street, as it is every year, and with many Chinese dissidents among the participants. But the balcony of the Grand Hotel, where traditionally the Peace Prize winner watches the parade, will be empty and dark today. Tomorrow is the Nobel concert. And in the Nobel Peace Center near the City Hall, people can visit an exhibition where Xiaobo's courageous fight for human rights is depicted in photos, poems, and interviews.